Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right, welcome to the show. I'm Paul Feith, host of this show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, leading from the heart, inspiring others, and making a difference in our communities. Show's, of course, sponsored by PGM, or Paul Gregory Media, another acronym to throw at you, who's a certified B Corporation, and the B stands for benefits. To learn more about what Paul Gregory Media does or what a benefits corporation is, visit paulgregorymedia.com. Ding. I have with me today Kay McKeen. She is the founder and executive director of SCARCE. And SCARCE is one of those acronyms that stands for School and Community Assistance for Recycling and Composting Education. Now, it's a nonprofit organization that works with schools, businesses, and communities to provide environmental education programs reaching children through adults. I love that. And I did snag this mission off of, I think it was LinkedIn, but it might have been off the website. Inspire people through education to preserve and care for the Earth's natural resources while working to build sustainable communities. I love that. Welcome, Kay.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yes, the pleasure is all mine. I always kind of start with the journey first because I always like to see what makes people tick. So before SCARCE and before Scrap, which I think is what it was called before then, what were you doing, and sort of what was the epiphany or realization that led you to form this new organization, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way, as you know.
It's a lot of work. I'm a really lucky person, Paul. I had parents who cared about, they didn't talk about the environment, but we planted trees, and our vacations were walks in the forest and things like that. And I had an aunt who was head of Girl Scouts, and I was a Girl Scout, and I'll tell you, just everybody around me, my grandmothers, everybody around me was mentoring people and helping. And everybody that I worked with and was involved with was interested in saving resources, protecting resources. So it kind of just came who I am. And I was working in nursing homes. I headed up the social services in nursing homes and physical therapy programs and recreation programs, and talking to senior citizens who, they did make quilts, and they were very careful with their water. And wow, some of them remember living on farms where you had to really have a windmill for the pumps to work. And so these are people, who really lived a less wasteful and more in tune and more connected to the environment. So it just all came kind of in a lot of different directions. And one of my grandmothers was from Poland, and they really did go to the creek and use an axe to pick out the ice and bring home ice in the wintertime, bring it back up the hill and heat it over the stove and the fire, and right. So, and my other grandmother, my Irish grandmother, oh my goodness, she knew every name of every bird. And it wasn't just, see the bird when I was a little girl. It was see the female cardinal, see the male cardinal. So, I just grew up with people who cared without ever using that word environment. It was so obvious that you wouldn't hurt things. And so in physical therapy and so forth, and working with seniors, I just saw all these people who knew how to live and live well without being wasteful. And my kids were in school, and I saw a lot of things go in the garbage that I thought, wow, those could be used by somebody else. So it came about in many different ways, Paul. And I think it was just a time when you realized the first Earth Day was 1970, and you realized, my goodness, we should all be doing our part. So that's where it all came from, a lot of different places. So I built Wheaton's Recycling Center with some friends in 1986. And then I realized that everybody didn't know about recycling. So I started going to schools and Rotary clubs and junior women's clubs and churches and talking about little things we could do. And from there came Scrap and SCARCE. We worked with a group called the DuPage Environmental Awareness Center that basically was started in Naperville. And I was volunteering at their recycling center. So all these things kind of just came together, and I had to do something to help people know that little things that they could do could really help kids and the planet.
Wow. And you said you were working with the county, but you're also working with another recycling center before that. What was I think maybe what I'm missing is what was the reason that you said, well, I got to do this myself. I got to start my own company.
When I started to see that schools really didn't have a choice, they're just throwing out books. There wasn't a way to get rid of books. And the recycling companies weren't taking books.
Oh,
And that's just ridiculous that kids right here in our own county need books and schools need books and taxpayers are paying for a lot of books. So it was kind of like, okay. So I built the recycling center in Wheaton. My husband actually did the building and some of our friends, there were 3 couples. And I thought, I need to do this. And the county came to me after I was working in Wheaton, and the county said, what you're doing in Wheaton as a volunteer, could you do for the county? And so all these things just came together, and scrap became the school community assistance recycling. And here we are.
and here we are. How many years
35
later?
years later. 35
Yeah,
years later.
darn right. And so when you mentioned the county, are you getting funding from the county as well?
We have partial funding for some of our education programs. We have 2 different areas, stormwater and water quality, water conservation, and then the environment, energy conservation, recycling, composting. And I've been able to get several laws passed at the state level to help us do our work. So kind of all of these things working together has helped us be who we are today.
Nice. Nice. The more I hear about, different leaders in the nonprofit world, the more impressed I am with the county putting resources towards the environment and the health and welfare of its residents.
I
We
would
have a
put
county.
at the top. I would put them at the top.
Yeah.
We work together so well, and they have so many conscientious, great leaders themselves, and the county board members care. It's been remarkable. And as other counties sometimes ask, how did we get started, or how does this work? They're kind of surprised.
Yeah.
There's been so much interaction and working together for the residents as well as for the county and taxpayers.
Well, shout out to DuPage County.
Yes.
Okay, so now you've started this organization. Let's just explain to our listeners what exactly is SCARCE. What are the services that you provide?
So with the county's help, we provide a lot of environmental education to schools, park districts. They pay a portion and the park districts pay a portion, libraries, whole cities. We have something called the Earth Flag Program, and it is co-sponsored with the county. And so towns, park districts, libraries, businesses, home, churches, schools can earn the county's Earth Flag, which is pretty cool. And then we have a water quality flag that they can earn. And then we have an ecology flag for really big projects like, a whole solar panel system or a big composting project for your whole grocery store, something like that. That's the hardest one to achieve. But we work together in developing programs and meeting all the needs that we possibly can in DuPage County. Scouts, preschools, college classes, green teams from businesses. So there isn't a limit, which I really appreciate. We get to talk to people and work with people of all ages and from all areas, so that a green team from a church is just as important to us as a green team from a park district.
Okay.
That's one part, is education. But I think one of the most unique things about SCARCE is a lot of people want to do something better for the planet. They want to do something better for their kids. And so environmental clubs and, like I mentioned, green teams, they're looking for things. Not everybody can tell the owner of their business to put solar panels on the roof. But what can we do at our business? Can we turn off the copier at the end of the day? Can we get a small compost bin in the lunchroom? Just those kinds of little things. Can we go in as a green team from a company, go and adopt a highway? So they're looking for ways to take action. And some of those actions can't have a price as well, maybe just people power, which is great power. So that's one thing. People are looking for ways to take action. But a lot of people, also homeowners, they're thinking, well, I've already bought energy efficient light bulbs and I've got an energy efficient refrigerator. What else can I do? So we try to help people take action. And one of those ways is to rescue. We call it rescue. rescue resources. So people every day, businesses every day, bring us supplies. So your business no longer needs binders. So if they are in excellent shape, we will take those so that kids who can't afford binders can have binders. If they're not in excellent shape, we have volunteers who will demanufacture them, and we cut out the metal rings, right, for scrap metal, and we cut out the cardboard. The cardboard can either be reused by teachers for art projects or making their own books, or the cardboard can be recycled. So we call it rescuing of resources, which is a kind of a hard word for people to understand, but reusing is way more important than recycling.
Yeah.
And if we can rescue, do you know how many people are fortunate and have books in every room of their homes, and yet there are families with very few books, and there are families living in their cars. So we try to get books to people where they need them. So at food pantries, we started something called Literacy at the Laundromat. We did not come up with that name, but we have bookcases in laundromats. So if you're living in your car or your apartment complex has broken washers and dryers, or right now yours is broken, kids have something to do at the laundromat. Choose a book, take a book home, build your own family library. The more books kids have, the further they go in school. So we try to reach people and kids where they are with supplies that they need for literacy.
Okay. So I actually like the word rescue.
Do you? You get it, right? Okay, good.
It's more engaging, it's a more active word, I think. And I think that's what you're after, right?
Right, absolutely. So people bring us musical instruments. So you played the clarinet and you didn't like the clarinet and you quit it when you were getting your braces, and it's been sitting in a closet for, you're smiling. So anyway, there are people who have a clarinet that's been sitting in the closet for 15 years, and there's kids right here in our own county that could use a clarinet. So we work to get grants and donations to repair instruments. And then we give those to schools who have kids who can't afford the $40 a month rent to rent an instrument. We hope that music is open to everyone. It doesn't matter your language, because the musical notes are the same. The beat is the same in whatever language. So if kids can have a clarinet, or recently we were able to get a child who, when they left Ukraine, he wasn't able to bring his violin. So he's a musical student. He loves music. He misses his violin, and his teacher found out, and we had a 3/4 size violin that we had just had repaired. So he has his violin, so we are constantly trying to find out what is needed and how we can help with that.
That's so great that you're not just the educational piece or the book rescue piece, but also music.
Yeah, music and art supplies. Our volunteers, Paul, are spectacular, and we have specialists, if you will, people who are we're school librarians, we're teachers, we're musicians, our musicians. We have 2 gentlemen who repair guitars that we get in, and we work with a group called Guitars for Vets, and it's a veteran PTSD music therapy program. So they need guitars. We get guitars. So Jim and Kurt repair them, restring them, make sure they're right. We kind of know what that group needs. They don't want electric guitars, different things. And we're lucky one of the founders lives right in St. Charles. So we email Bernie and say, we've got some guitars for you to check out. And last time we had 11 and he chose 6 of them. And then we have a punch, like a paper punch.
Yeah.
But it's a punch, and it punches out guitar picks from gift cards. You can't put gift cards in your recycling bin. They're too small, they're too thin, they're not the right kind of plastic. So with this guitar pick punch, you punch out guitar picks. And we were told by Bernie and one of his helpers that PTSD, some of the folks taking the classes for guitar, have a hard enough time keeping track of the guitar, much less guitar picks.
Huh.
Guitar picks are not cheap. So the gift card is not recyclable. So maybe we can reuse that plastic to make guitar picks, which saves the Guitars for Vets money. And they're going to end up in the garbage, whether somebody loses them or whatever, they're going up in the garbage, but they were used one more time. and that plastic became a service one more time.
Right.
So we have great volunteers that help us with all these specialties, Paul.
That's a theme I'm starting to hear too, in terms of reuse before it gets to recycle.
Yes. Yeah. And
Which is,
I
don't know.
we are so lucky because we have a lady who was a school art teacher. Now she teaches pottery. And she is just, we actually have bins for her just to, I'm not sure what all the art supplies, if they're relevant anymore. So we have a bin just for Sherry. And so when Sherry comes in on Thursdays, that's the first thing she goes through. Is this something that's good? Where does it need to go? Where is it the most helpful? Is it for a school? Is it a college class? Those kinds of things. We have a retired biology teacher, AP and biology teacher and environmental studies teacher. She bought her own microscope cleaning and repair kit, because we get microscopes and I can't tell you the calibrations of all the different kinds of microscopes. Catherine does. She cleans them, she takes them apart, she calibrates them, and then she leaves notes on them for the teachers, like this is a perfect microscope for a 5th grade class. This is a perfect microscope. This is a dissecting microscope. So she knows all this. There's no way I can do that. So our volunteers add such experience and such knowledge that we can reach more people. So far, we're in 112 countries.
Oh my gosh.
With books, musical instruments, medical equipment, desks for schools. We've been so fortunate with word of mouth to be able to find the people doing extraordinary projects around the world. And then we've been able to help after hurricanes and tornadoes. So while we're based here in DuPage County, Paul, our reach is pretty global. We've done 18 shipments to Ukraine. So we're not limited. We're only limited by what we don't know where the help is needed. We have a special affection for American Indian reservations. And we have a project, Paul, called Road Trips. So let's say you're driving to South Dakota. I have 2 Indian reservations that need supplies. We're on a first name basis with the principal of the Pine Ridge High School. Lynette, I call her and I say, we've got somebody coming. What's top of your list that you need? And she'll email me a list, and it's amazing what we can get. Books are heavy. I don't have shipping money, right? It's very hard. It's very hard to ship books. They're expensive. So we load up people's cars with pill bottles going to Cincinnati, or bread tags going to Carmel, Indiana, or going to different Indian reservations. We even have a couple. They are so precious. They send me their itinerary and the highways they're going to be on. So their most recent trip for us, they went to the Zuni Indian tribe just south of Gallup, New Mexico. And so they were on the highway to Gallup, where they were going to Arizona last of their final destination. So they filled their trunk. They said they only need the back seat for their supplies. So they filled their trunk with what the Zuni Indian tribe needed. That's how we can reach so many more kids and people. We love to network. We'll network with anybody who's trying to help kids and people and the planet. And we're kind of, it's an interesting thing. We're kind of a behind the scenes helper to many not-for-profits. So we help lots of not-for-profits with the things that they need. We just had a lady picking up supplies yesterday for 2 food pantries in West Chicago. And what do food pantries need? We do get food sometimes, but they need jackets. And we have a company who gave us beautiful, very warm, very nice vests, winter vests. So they picked up vests and hats and sweaters and some denim jackets yesterday. The People's Resource Center, I know you interviewed Jenny in the past, and we save reusable bags for them so that their clients who come for food have reusable bags. We save paper bags with handles for 2 different food pantries. So it's like when we hear what's needed, we just start another project to find those items, whether it's businesses, our volunteers, or residents. We get them gathered and we get them out.
Well, I didn't realize you had the global reach that you did. And And it's nice to hear that you're always looking for more network connections to fill those gaps. I'm
Mhm.
curious what the operating budget is for you guys, because it seems like it's a lot of volunteer run uh,
Oh,
organization. So I'm guessing the budget's under $1 million somewhere.
oh yes, under 1 million. And we have over 120 volunteers.
Mm,
Um, and Paul is here 3 mornings a week, and Tip's here 3 afternoons a week. And my husband gets to volunteer 6 days a week. So um, it's 120 people, but many of them are here more than once a week. So I don't, Marilyn is a volunteer and she types in our hours, but we have thousands and thousands of hours every month, Paul, of volunteers. We only have 10 staff and 4 of those are part-time. So we have to have the volunteer help that we have. We are grateful for that help every single day. It's kind of neat because some of our volunteers, they volunteer other places, and so or they live near Sharing Connections. I don't know if you've talked to the folks at Sharing Connections. They're a great group in Downers Grove.
mhm.
And so several of our volunteers live in Downers Grove. So when we have supplies, we have a whole area where we set aside things that we know groups need because we've worked with some of the same groups for decades. And so when we have a bin for Sharing Connections, Mary Ellen or Mary Ann live in Downers Grove. And so when they come in to volunteer, I go, do you have time to stop at Sharing Connections? And so they just drop it off on
Yeah.
their,
Yeah.
and that is a great service for all of us. But Susan and Jim, a lot of our volunteers do research work to help us find new ways to get things reused or to help in a different part of the country or the world. We're very fortunate, Paul. We're just very fortunate.
That's awesome. Well, you don't get to do this for 35 years and not step on a few landmines and come across some challenges. So that brings me to my next question, which is what is your biggest challenge that you face these days?
Wow, not-for-profits have had a lot of challenges with COVID and right.
Mm-hmm.
We're back on our feet after COVID. We had just moved. We'd been in Glen Ellen for almost 29 years of our 35 years. And we had just moved in March of 2020.
Oh my, right there.
And it took us a month to move. And thank goodness, the sheriff in DuPage County, Jim Mendrick, he has the SWAP program, Sheriff's Work Alternative Program. And we had some volunteer folks as well. So some of his team was in Glen Ellen, where we were, and some of his team was here in Addison, where we moved. And then we had volunteers teaching them how to take apart the shelvings for the books, how to box the books, how to label the boxes of books. They would load a truck there, and then we rented 2 trucks. And my daughter and one of our staff members, Heather, they passed each other on 53 26 times
Mm,
in a month. And if we had not had the sheriff's program to take apart those shelving units and rebuild it, I don't know what would have happened. But our last delivery was on a Friday, and I think the shelter in place happened on Saturday. And that's what it took to get 100,000 books here, and musical instruments and keyboards, and our desk was an extraordinary thing. So COVID was a huge problem. I think for us individually, one of our struggles is we know that there are people in need, and we don't know always how to reach them.
mhm.
We work with teachers who we know bring food to school and have drawers in their desks or in their closets in their classrooms to feed kids. So when we do get food, we get that food out as fast as we can to food pantries and teachers saving food for kids who need that. We know that our book rescue area teachers come in and they fill a box, like a copy paper box,
Mhm.
fill that with supplies, crayons and pencils and markers and whatever they need, right? And it's $10 a box. But we know that the teachers are buying so much with their own money.
Yeah,
Um, it's kind of shocking, actually.
it's very unfortunate.
It's very important. And to find teachers who don't have a desk in their classroom. It's just crazy. So we always are struggling. How do we find who needs what? It's every Christmas we have police departments who call us and say, we've got a mom living in her car with 3 kids and they didn't find anybody with free toys for Christmas. So we always have a stash, I call it, emergency supplies. West Chicago had a fire, and I know Molly was on your program and talked about the fire. We're on her call list, and we were there this next morning. The fire was during the night. We were there in the morning with coats, blankets, and shoes. Because we don't really take those things, Paul. But when we do get them, the new things, we keep a stash, an emergency.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come in handy, I guess.
Right. Tornadoes. There we had a project in the panhandle of Florida. I think it was Hurricane Michael, and it hit a small town, Tyndall. And their town was so small, they had no electricity, and the teachers were making bags to deliver to the tents that families were living in on their front lawns. And so with one group, we rescued tents and got those shipped to Florida. And with the teachers, we shipped the supplies. So they had a ruler for every child, scissors, crayon sets, our super crayons, so that they had supplies to deliver to their tents. It just seems extraordinary in America, right? That we're collecting tents. But if we find the need, and we like to find it. And of course, all not-for-profits struggle with raising enough funds. If I had more room, we could rescue more stuff, right? And it's expensive. So those are the struggles that we have. But truly, we are so fortunate in that we have great volunteers, incredible volunteers. And our staff, there's really no politics here. Everybody's on the same page. We're taking care of kids and the planet. There you go. So in 2023, when teachers come, Paul, they fill out a little form, or a not-for-profit comes, they fill out a little form like, how many people are you going to serve with the supplies you got today? So if you've got 27 kids in your class or whatever it is. So in 2023, the number was 1.6 million people served by the form that they fill out. This year, we're at 2.3 million.
Wow, that's significant growth in a year.
Yeah, and luckily we've had a big growth in volunteers as well. That, Paul, is the part that is where people come here and choose what they need. That is not the literacy in the laundromat where we drop off the books in our bookcases. That's not the food pantries. That's not the hospice center in Joliet. Those things we don't really know how to count, and so they aren't counted. So it's way more than that. When we had a young volunteer who is now a teacher, and she went to Zambia and she brought books. Well, paperback books are the best books to bring because they don't weigh as much, kind of fit in your duffel bag, because you don't really get to take a lot of stuff when you go to African countries. It's so expensive. So things that could kind of roll. And one of the things she took was, you've probably seen the really big books that they use in preschools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she was able to roll some of those in her duffel bag. And then she got a picture. She said, those kids hardly see any books, much less a book half as big as they are.
Oh, wow.
So, we've just been so fortunate to be able to reach kids the way we are able to.
Right. So the struggle there is, how do you reach more, and where are those gaps?
Where are those gaps? Reaching kids where they are. The literacy in the laundromat, the teacher who came up with that title, I wish I knew who it was to give her or him credit, but that has helped us reach so many kids that we'll never see their faces, but they've got a book. And it's kind of like, you'll love this. The city of Addison had an ambulance that they were decommissioning. It was 11 years old. They were decommissioning it, and they were going to donate it. And that's when, right after they had made that decision, Russia invaded Ukraine. So they decided to fix it and stock it and ship it to Ukraine. So we do a lot of work with the Addison Fire Department and Police Department. So I called the chief and I said, so is there any room on that ambulance? And, people are a little worried about me, Paul, sometimes when I call, like, what am I going to ask for?
Right.
And I said, well, we save these bread tags, those little square bread tags when you open a loaf of bread?
Mm-hmm.
They're plastic. Well, we work with an agency in Indiana called Danielle Cares for Chairs, Cares for Chairs. And she gets wheelchairs for kids with those bread tags. And so we collect bread tags here. We send them to her. People drop them off for us. The company buys those instead of buying new plastic. They buy those bread tags. They make their hangers out of that.
Okay.
The money he would have used to buy new plastic, he gives to Danielle Cares for Chairs, and she gets wheelchairs. And so when I told the fire chief we had brand new wheelchairs to put on for kids, he was like, yes. So we put backpacks and with flashlights because there's no power. We put stuffed animals, our super crayons, and wheelchairs. So that's the great networking of 35 years. People know that we're trying. We just need to know where that help is needed.
Indeed. Wow. Well, what a great service for. I was just under the impression it was for DuPage County, but it's worldwide. Worldwide. That's amazing.
We're well over 10 million books, Paul, chosen.
Wow.
Yeah, we're well over 10 million. And, the thing is that we all have stuff at home that we're not using, rulers or whatever it is. And then we have companies who, if you made a whole bunch of T-shirts for a run, a fun run, a money-raising event or whatever, and then you only used 400 of those T-shirts.
Yep.
So there's 100 T-shirts sitting in a closet for a company. We'd love to have those. Because when West Chicago had that fire, we brought all different sizes of brand new T-shirts. Didn't really matter what the run was for. We all have stuff. And there's little ways to help. So one of the things, we work really a lot on protecting pollinators and protecting wildlife. So this is a yellow bulb. They used to be called bug bulbs.
Remember those?
Yep. So now, amazingly, they have LED ones that use less energy. And we're learning more and more about how the bright lights impact migration of birds and insects, right? So what if people change their outdoor bulbs to just yellow bulbs? What a simple little way to help migrating insects, right? And birds. So that's one of our super helpers. When I talk about super crayons, this is one of our super crayons. So we make crayons that not all kids, physical therapy was my first love. Not all kids can hold on to a regular size crayon. Not all kids can see the color of a crayon. The wrapper is not always the same color as the crayon.
As a crayon, yes.
And then some kids with autism, they can't do the wrappers. So they have to take all the wrappers off. So this meets 3 different kinds of kids' needs. So everybody's got broken crayons probably at home. Preschools have broken crayons, schools do. So a lot of environmental clubs collect their broken crayons for us. And then volunteers sort them by color, peel them, and then we have volunteers who make super crayons with crock pots.
That's so cool.
And they went to Ukraine. I can't imagine what the kids in Ukraine thought of butterfly crayons and dinosaur crayons, but we do a lot of work with kids who have cancer and they're in hospitals for a long time. So the super crayons, it's going to take your mind off of all of the awful things going on, right? For a second or two.
I wouldn't mind a super crayon once in a while, I think. Oh boy. Well, I mean, I learned a lot. Certainly a lot going on with your organization. Kudos to your volunteers who are doing the amazing work every day. And for you for starting this organization. And it's been, like you said, 35 years. It's quite an accomplishment. And
we feel so grateful every day, Paul. Really, we do. Every day.
Yeah, you should. Grateful and blessed, I guess. Those are the things. It's why we devoted our organization to nonprofit and purpose-driven organizations as well, is because in any industry, if you're leaving the world in a better place than you that you started. It's always a good feeling.
That's what my mom and dad used to say, make it better.
Make it better. Yeah, indeed.
Make it
Well,
better.
thank you. It was nice meeting you. It was nice talking to you. And I certainly did learn a lot. And any parting thoughts for our listeners out there?
I hope people hearing this will know that little things can make a difference. Some people say, well, I only have a few bread tags. Well, if everybody has a few, that makes a difference. I only have a few of these, or I only have a few books. I think little things add up. You don't have to do the humongous things. Little things add up, and together, look what we can get done. And a few hours of volunteering is better than, if you can't do it all the time, that's fine, but a few hours is better than not. I think people should just feel good that there are things they can do. And I think that people feel good when they know something is happening that they did, that they participated. I think that adds something to your life.
Yeah, and people can find out more information by going to scarce.org.
Yes, scarce.org. Yep.
Scarce.org.
Yep. And we are eager. You call us and we are going to want to have you come for an open house, have you come for something we call a repair fair. We've got so many things going on. We would love for people to come for a tour or an open house and see how they can help, and see how they can help us and help others. I
Indeed.
appreciate this opportunity, Paul. I really do. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I love promoting this. And there's a special section in there that I really like called Green Your Gig. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but I love that. If for all those people out there that are hosting events and conferences and networking things, you can be 100% green about it with reusing, not recycling, but reusing plates and dishes and glassware. And it's surprisingly affordable. So go check out the website. It is scarce.org. Kay, it's been my pleasure to get your word out, and also just meeting you. You're a lovely person. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, and good luck to you. This is a great project. Thank you.
Awesome. Till next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.